This is Kevin Harrington, original shark from Shark Tank, inventor of the infomercial, and you're listening to Jamy Bechler from Success is a Choice.
Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Welcome to Success is a Choice podcast. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler. Today we have a great guest. Shawn Silman is the Dean of Liberal Arts at San Jacinto College down in Houston. He also was a former college basketball coach and an athletic director. Shawn, appreciate you being on the show today.
Hey, Jamie, thanks so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Now, you've done a lot of things in your career, college basketball coach, AD. Now you're on the academic side of education there at San Jacinto. And looking back over your career, what kind of stands out to you? What are some things that you're most proud of?
Well, you know, as a coach, it's in any position, it's really about relationships. And you know, you look back on the people that you've met, the people that you've worked with. That's really sort of shaped who I am and who I've become as a man. When I got the job at St. Jack, I was 24 years old, fresh out of graduate school. I'd never had a full-time job. That was my first full-time job to ever have. And so, you know, I was sort of fresh-faced and a little bit green, but as I worked, I met people, and it created relationships with a lot of people across the country, and then I met a lot of wonderful coaches who've now become lifelong friends. So I think that's really it created a great foundation for me to build relationships with people I would otherwise never have met.
What is a Dean of Liberal Arts? I know that it's a big deal. You know, you're a big deal around these parts. But, you know, what would be your responsibilities? What does a Dean of Liberal Arts do?
Well, first off, I'm a very little fish in a big pond, but I appreciate the compliment. But really, liberal arts at San Jack is not what you would think of, say, as a liberal arts college. Our liberal arts wings is primarily our academic programs. I have most academic programs except some of the criminal justice, and I have no sciences in my area. So mathematics, fine arts, speech, behavioral social sciences. I am over English, all of those sort of things. That's the divisions that I oversee. Really, my job is to promote instructional creativity and innovation. I try to make sure our faculty are pushing the envelope with technology, pushing the envelope with how they deliver course content, and they do that spectacularly. We really sort of lead the edge. Last year in 2016, San Jack was awarded the Aspen Award. Aspen is a group through the American Association of Community Colleges out of Washington, D.C., who oversees the community college system, and we were awarded a top 5 in that area. So we were named a top 5 community college of all the community colleges in the country. So it was a pretty exciting time for the college. It was a big honor to receive that. But what that means to me is that our faculty are really pushing the envelope. Our faculty are really doing things that are outside the box, that are creative, that help our students learn, help our students achieve their own personal goals. And so through our innovation and creativity, one thing we find a lot of times is when our faculty or we go to conferences, people are giving a program, and we're like, oh man, we did that 2 years ago. And they're speaking about it like it's something brand new. So the San Jack model is that we're not afraid to try anything. In fact, right now we're starting a brand new part of term. We're doing a 2-week, for any full-time student who's a first time in college, who's never attended any college at all, they're going to go through a 2-week onboarding process of kind of how to do college. So those education psychology classes that kind of teach you just how to do college. We're doing that in 2 weeks. And then these students are moving into a 14-week program, and they're going to stay together through their entire college career, but it's going to help them create some cohesiveness with a group of people that they will know. It'll create them some, as John Gardner, who's a famous education researcher, his big claim is that the students who feel tied into a campus are more likely to persist and complete. And that's what we're trying to do with this type of model, is that they have a group of friends. They already have a set group of friends that they're going to progress through college with. And so we're trying to create those bonds that help them stick to a plan, and finish a degree. So, that's one thing that we do. Another thing that I've promoted within my division are interdisciplinary events. I try to make sure I get our faculty to get our curriculum out of the classroom and bring it onto campus. We do these amazing presentations. One we had a while back was Tea on the Titanic. And so we had professors from all of our different backgrounds. We had behavioral social scientists, English, art, theater. All of our faculty would give a 5 or 10 minute presentation on how their discipline was either impacted by the sinking of the Titanic or maybe how the passengers were impacted with regard to that discipline. And so it was a fantastic presentation to get people to think about philosophy, to get students to think about the psychology of the passengers as the ship was sinking. So, it was just a way to get students exposed to content they might not otherwise have seen. And so we do a lot of those. We try to do one of those a semester, and they've been wildly popular. One we did last spring was Sex Through the Ages, and that was a really, really popular presentation series, and it was interesting to see students' reactions to how this how sex has impacted almost every discipline across the academic disciplines that you wouldn't really think of. Then outside of that, my job is to create schedules, help our faculty and department chairs create schedules that are really student-centered. Well, we've gotten away from creating schedules based on what our faculty really want. I mean by that, I don't want to teach at 7 a.m. or I don't want to teach this class at 2. But when we look at our data and we see that students prefer a class at a certain time, we want to make sure we're offering classes at that time. And so I really tried to create a student-centered schedule. So our enrollment has gone up, not necessarily just based on what I've done, but we've done it across the campus. And our North Campus is up around 8% right now, just over 8,000 students. And so creating that student-centered schedule, offering courses when our students, customers want those classes, it's helped our enrollment grow.
How has being an athletic director and a basketball coach in the past, how did those experiences or the things you learned, how does that help you in your current job?
When I first interviewed for this position, making that transition from athletics to academics, breaking kind of that stereotype is tough. And that in my interview, I had a faculty forum where I was just kind of open, just they could fire any questions they wanted to at me. And that was one thing I was asked. And my take was that I think it's a benefit because that's what I've done as a basketball coach, athletic director for the past 15 years was bring in people from various diverse backgrounds, have them work toward a common goal, work in harmony toward a common goal. And I see the same thing as in my liberal arts division where I've got mathematics and engineering and behavioral social sciences, English, fine arts, all these people from various and diverse backgrounds, but we have to still work on one common goal, which is student success, getting our students to complete their goals. And so how do I use the skills as a coach to do that? And I've gotten great feedback. I'm not sure if some faculty member tried to butter me up, but they've said, I really appreciate the way that you've allowed us, that you've led us in a manner that helps us understand that what we're working toward, that we're all kind of in it together.
You recently in Houston suffered a huge devastation with the floods. How did that affect your job? How did it affect San Jacinto, the surrounding community?
We're on the east side of Houston, and one of our school districts is Sheldon ISD. They were hit really hard. In fact, their high school was flooded with about 6 or 8 feet of water. They are going to be bringing some of their students to our campus to complete their education because the high school is flooded. The gym, I don't know if there's been pictures of the gym circulated. It was on Good Morning America. It looked like a skate park. The boards on the floor were just warped. The auditorium was full of water. So that school was decimated. So they're going to be bringing some students here. We're going to be working with them to create. We've allocated some classroom space and some office space. But, our students at the college were impacted, and we were down for about a week. And I was, as we were having conversations about who we thought, or when should we return, how should we manage this process of getting all the cleanup done that had to get done, but also get students kind of back to a normal routine. I wasn't very optimistic in thinking that, well, sooner is better. I was thinking people needed a little more time, because as you drive down through neighborhoods, you see people, every house on a neighborhood block, all of their worldly possessions are pulled out to the curb. Sheetrock, carpet, all their stuff is just dragged out to the front yard, and they've suffered such a tragic loss. But it's been surprising to find that when we opened our doors after the flood, we, on average, most of the faculty I talked to were missing 3 or 4 students in a particular section. So that tells me that even though our students and community had suffered a pretty tragic event, they were glad to get back to campus and eager to continue working on their education. So it was it sort of speaks to the resiliency of the East Side. You know, you've got the West Side of Houston where you've got the white collar workers typically, and the East Side of Harris County, Houston, are typically known as the blue collar folks, and they've just rolled up their sleeves and decided, hey, I've got to take care of my business at home, but also school is very important. And our enrollment is really high right now. We were up, and we didn't see a dip, a significant. After the flood, we ended up, before the flood happened, we were up about 16%. After the flood, and we returned back to school, now we're up around 11%. We lost about 4% or so. So we're still up. We're strong. We're doing well. Our students are here, and they're eager to get after it.
Talking about challenges, and certainly it's hard to relate some challenges that we go through and compare them to devastation of a flood. But I'm sure that you've been very successful. You know, things haven't always been smooth for you. What are some challenges that you've had to face, that you've had to overcome, and how did you do that? How did you overcome some of those challenges throughout your career?
You know, looking back on a career like I said, when I got this job, I was 24 years old. I look at the things that I did and how I sometimes talk to officials or handle people. I wish I knew then what I know now. But, you go through a lot of growing pains. You go through a lot of things that you think you're doing it right. You're hoping you're doing it right. You're doing it for the right reasons, but maybe the process is a little bit flawed. But it just gets back to learning from your mistakes and learning from the things that you've done wrong, and try not to make them again. One of the famous coaches said that it's something you do. If you do it once, it's an accident. 2 or 3 times it becomes it's a habit. So but as you go through challenges, as you go through different events, it's one of those deals where you rely on people and you rely on relationships that you've made, as I mentioned previously. You try to learn from those who have gone before you and rely on your network of friends and colleagues who have been through it and can kind of help coach you through certain situations. So again, it kind of comes back to people and dealing with them and having those solid relationships and people you trust that you can have frank conversations with. And I think that's what's got me through most of my difficult times. And then having a strong family. My wife is so supportive of what I've done and the route I've taken. As a former college basketball player, she sort of understands the time commitment that was required as a coach. She also understands that now that I'm not coaching, it's still a big time commitment for the dean and some of the challenges that I face. And so having a support structure from home, it's a huge benefit as well.
What is a mistake that you see leaders making more frequently than others? Maybe a behavior or a trait that you've seen derail a person's career or where they've shot themselves in the foot?
That's a great question. Oftentimes I think sometimes you see leaders who either put too much trust into some individual without having them fully vetted or being untruthful about who they really are. And I think that's probably been something that's the biggest derailment factor for folks, is that you look at some of these professionals who say have lied about credentials that they had, who have falsified information regarding their various qualifications. Those things don't happen often. They're significant when they do happen. We've dealt with some of that recently. That's something that that can totally derail a career. But I think that people just make mistakes. A lot of times it's unintentional, but when you're trusting the wrong people and you don't have a tight circle of friends who you can really trust and go to, I think that's a problem, especially when you have people who maybe have ulterior motives and sort of derail you.
What are some things that you do to ensure that you're continuing to grow and develop as a leader?
I try to do as much professional development as I possibly can. I try to stay on top of leading trends. I work with we have a Center for Excellence Teaching and Learning here at the institution. I work with them quite a bit. They provide us with a lot of resources, books, literature with regard to cutting edge ideas, cutting edge leadership. And so we have a leadership development team here that provides us a website for information. So, I use those resources that the college provides us. I try to do plenty of reading on my own to make sure that I'm staying abreast of kind of what's going on and the trends that are happening. But it's important that you stay current, because that helps you stay relevant, and that's in such a dynamic institution like us where we're constantly changing. I think that's really important as a leader, just to stay relevant.
We'll return to the interview with Shawn Silman shortly, but I wanted to take a moment to mention something that goes hand in hand with what Shawn is trying to do as an educator at San Jacinto College. He is passionate about developing students and educating them and building up their character so that they can be better citizens in the community. Frederick Douglass once said that it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. Well, we have put together a book that helps student athletes learn how to be better leaders and positive teammates. It is called The Leadership Playbook. Become your team's most valuable leader. You see, when we help develop today's students, we can also help influence the future in a positive way. Please visit theleadershipplaybook.com to learn more about this impactful book. And now back to more insights from Shawn Silman. What are some factors or habits or choices that you've made during your career that you consider key to your success or helping you get to, where you are today?
Well, first off, taking this job, I've been at San Jac starting my 22nd year. Obviously, taking this job has helped form who I am. But prior to that, when I finished up my undergraduate, I was really looking for a college coaching job and didn't really know where or how to start. But I knew I wanted to coach in college. Worked through some connections I had and ended up getting a graduate assistantship at Henderson State University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, through my dad's old high school football coach who was a professor there. I took a flyer. I'd never been out of the state, never lived outside the state of Texas, never lived much further from my parents' home other than about 20 miles. And so I was taking a leap of faith to head to Arkansas to go work on a master's degree. And so that really opened up my eyes, moving there, going to graduate school, really being on my own for the first time. Being able to make some decisions, but making those connections there, that leap of faith really, I think, was a springboard for where I am today. The things I learned at Henderson State were invaluable. The people I met there were fantastic, and they helped formulate the professional that I've become.
Where can people connect with you or learn more about you or learn more about San Jacinto College?
I have Twitter. Shawn Silman. It's at Shawn Silman, or maybe at Shawn.Silman. I'm not sure which one it is. I don't look myself up very much. It's one of those. I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but it's one of those. You
don't tweet at you. You don't tweet at yourself or follow your own Twitter?
I should. That would help. Because a lot of times when I tweet, nobody replies. I'm thinking I'm just doing it to myself anyway. So maybe I should start following myself.
You'd at least get one reply or one retweet.
Right, one pity reply, right, exactly. I'm available through San Jac's website. All of our academic deans are listed there. We're readily available through phone and email. I have all the social media platforms. I'm active in most of those, and so I can be reached. I don't have my own website. I'm not that big time yet. I haven't created that. I hadn't really found the need for it, but maybe one of these days.
We will be sure to put those links, and we'll figure out what your Twitter is, what your Twitter handle is, and maybe you can get a couple extra followers and a couple extra retweets. We'll put all those in the show notes for you.
That would be fantastic.
We want to finish up with a few rapid fire questions, just kind of at the top of your head. These are a couple random questions, but you mentioned personal development. You like to grow, and involve yourself in a lot of personal development. But are there some books and podcasts that you would recommend or that you're currently consuming?
One of the podcasts I've really been locked into for a while is the Joe Rogan Experience. It's surprisingly educational. It has some really good topics. It's a little bit brash at times, and the language is often colorful, but he's had some really good topics, some good speakers. I've kind of been locked in on that. One book I read recently was Buster Olney's book about how lucky you can be, about the story of Coach Don Meyer.
Okay.
And from that, it's a great book. It's really it's a biography about Don Meyer, but buried inside there is a story from Don about how he really, as he was coaching, was focused on his team, and his team was his life, and he was a fantastic coach. But the other side of that is his family felt often neglected. They didn't feel like he was involved with them as much as he was with his team. They were almost sort of second fiddle. And, as I look back on my career, that was sort of the impetus for me to get out of coaching, was that my kids were growing up. My oldest daughter was getting into middle school and starting to play sports. I wanted to be there for her, even though it was seventh grade basketball. I really wanted to watch my daughter play and know her, and her to be able to look in the stands and see her parents there supporting her. And so that was sort of what helped me get out of coaching, and I took that message away from that book, is that really helped me solidify that I made the right decision. That I made the right decision to get out of coaching. It's because, I truly miss the camaraderie of the coaching. I miss the daily hearing the shoes squeak in the gym floor. I don't miss the recruiting and the travel and that sort of thing by any means. But making this move in a career has helped me but be more of a family man and focus more on the little things in my family that really matter.
Who would you like to meet or spend time with that you don't currently already know?
Well, I think as a former basketball coach, John Wooden would have been a guy I would love to have been able to sit down and have a conversation with. He was such an inspiration to most of the things I did as a coach, and as I tried to instill in my players. Of course, that opportunity has since passed, but he was one guy that I really would like to spend more time with.
That's good. What is a favorite quote or mantra that you have?
My kids will tell you this, that Dad says it all the time, that there's no right time to do the wrong thing and no wrong time to do the right thing. And if you do it wrong the first time, when are you going to have time to do it right? So just focus on doing the right thing, and it makes your life a lot simpler.
I'm sure there's been plenty of eye rolls in the Silman household.
Oh, yes. Years. Well, especially with teenage daughters, the eye rolls are getting more and more frequent. So, yeah, it's not, they don't receive it well initially, but I'm hoping that I say it enough that it's planting that seed that when they're given that opportunity, of the choice to make, they're going to make the right decision.
Well, if nothing else, 10 or 15 years from now when they have kids,
right,
they'll say it. And then they'll catch themselves. That's what Dad used to say. I'm turning into Dad.
I'm turning into my dad. Oh, can't believe it.
What is a productivity tool or app or resource or software that you would have a hard time doing without?
Well, I really have two. I mean, Outlook for me, if something's not in Outlook, it's not going to happen that day. So I really try to plan my day using Outlook. But living in Houston, I've come to rely heavily on an app called Waze, W-A-Z-E. It's a sort of a traffic map, and it is amazing. It's a free app, and like yesterday, my daughter goes to Kingwood High School, And because of the flooding, Kingwood got about 10 feet of water in their school. They had 2 feet of water in the second floor of the high school. So they're not going to open the school for the entire year. Kingwood High School is splitting the day with Summer Creek High School. So Summer Creek High School has 2,200 students. Kingwood High School has 2,700 students. So the Summer Creek students go to school in the morning. Kingwood High School students go to the school in the afternoon. So you've got 2,700 people coming into campus at the same time. 2,200 are leaving. It's a rather chaotic time. But this Waze app, it just finds the most direct route, and traffic was sitting still, and one map showed it's going to take me about an hour to go 8 miles. Well, I open up Waze, and we're home in 35 minutes. And so it's a fantastic app, especially in Houston. If you are anywhere that has significant traffic, it's well worth the download.
That's a great point, especially for all of us people or all the listeners that say that we're too busy for something or having issues with time management, that, you know, if you can save 20 minutes or 30 minutes in a car, or even 15, that's a great thing.
Without a doubt.
We'll definitely put that in the show notes, so if people haven't done that or heard of Waze before, they can do that. If you were to be on any reality show, which one would it be?
Well, as an outdoorsman, I think I would do well on the show Alone. I think it's on the History Channel, and they just plop people out into it's pretty much, they put them on Vancouver Island in Alaska and say, we'll see you when you tap out. And they plan on living there for up to a year. They drop you off with about 10 items, and you're there. You're supposed to build your shelter and supply your own food and water, and I think I would do okay at that. I think that would be a heck of a challenge, but I think I've got enough survival skills and outdoorsmanship that I could survive for a while.
Well, other than your current job that you have now and being a reality show star eventually, what would you do if you could do anything?
You know, that's such a good question, because you have so many ideas. I'd want to own a restaurant, or I don't want to do this or what, or I'd want to, the easy answer is I want to, own some big corporation. But for me, it would be a rancher. I grew up in an area of rural northeast Texas where my grandfather was a farmer. My dad still owns cattle and ranches. And as I was growing up, I knew I did not want to be a cotton farmer like my granddad, because it was just, the work was so hard. But now as I've aged and I look back, I'm thinking, that's a pretty good existence there. You're working with the land, you're working with nature, you're outside. So getting back to my roots, I would be a farmer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Would there be certain type of farmer?
Yeah, my granddad, he grew cotton and wheat, and and raised cattle. And the cotton and wheat industry is still thriving in that neck of the woods, but the cattle industry is too. In fact, I own cattle now. They're at my dad's ranch. So it's pretty much the best way to own cows. Somebody else keeps them, feeds them, and takes care of them for you, and just sends you a picture every now and then of how they're doing. So it's pretty ideal. Not a lot of work's involved, but raising cattle and horses, I think that would, and having having a piece of land would be my dream job.
Okay, I think it's also the best way to own pets.
Without a doubt,
you have the grandparents have the pet, and you send your kid over there.
Yeah, it's like a virtual pet.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. The best way to have cattle, the best way to have a farm is someone else have it, and
That's exactly right. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. Well, Shawn, I appreciate your insights today. You're doing a lot of good there at San Jacinto, impacting and influencing our future leaders and the students there at San Jac. So thank you, and I appreciate your time. Good luck with the school year this year.
Hey, I really appreciate the time. It was a great conversation. Good talking to you, and hope it's been some benefit.
I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Shawn Silman. He's on the front lines of developing our future as the dean at San Jacinto College. You know, Houston is one of the largest cities in the country, and Shawn gets to make an impact on so many people. If you haven't yet done so, please take a quick second to hit that little subscribe button so that you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks a lot for tuning in today, and remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?